Hello, everybody. Norwich City have announced their second signing of the summer. That man, Jack Stacey, signing from Bournemouth, a versatile defender, typically a right back. He joins on a 3-year deal at Carrow Road, a free transfer, of course. And with that, delighted to be joined by the Bournemouth Echo's chief sports writer, Tom Crocker. Tom, thanks for joining me at such short notice this afternoon. Just want to sort of get your take on Jack Stacey and what Norwich City fans can expect from his sort of spell at Bournemouth 4 years now. What have you made of him as a player?
Yeah, he's been sort of ups and downs really in his time. He's sort of had spells in the team, spells out the team. I think he came in 2019 from League One really. So Eddie Howe signed him for about £4 million, and no one expected too much really, given he's just been playing in sort of the third tier. I think League Two before that. So I think the plan was to just grow him in gradually. That didn't quite go to plan. I think it was injuries pretty early on. He ended up pretty much playing in the Premier League quite early that season. Got an early taste of it, and then went back out the side, sort of learned his way again, and came back and played quite a lot towards the end of that first season in the Premier League. So, couldn't help them avoid relegation, but he looked quite a promising prospect at that point. Good sort of bargain deal. Went in the Championship, played quite a lot again at the start of the season, and then had sort of injury troubles really, and missed out. And then sort of was in and out of the team ever since then. Really, I'm just trying to look back now. He's sort of. I think the season before this one, when Bournemouth got promoted, he had a good run in the side, but sort of was struggling for form. Really, the problem was they had no one else that could really play, and he was sort of had to sort of play through that form and come out the other side. I remember speaking to Scott Parker at the time, and he sort of said ideally he would have taken him out the firing line because he was struggling a bit, and but he ended up playing through it, and then since from sort of January last year, really, they've sort of been trying to move away from him and progress further than Jack Stacey. I think he didn't play at all towards the end of the Championship season. Barely played this season at all, really. I think the last 18 months or so has been tough for him, and they've sort of been waiting to run down that contract. And they've brought other right backs in to sort of cover as well, and Adam Smith's been the main one. So I'd say it's promising at the start. A couple of injury issues, and then the last couple of managers haven't really fancied him, which has been a shame for him. But I think he'll do perfectly well back in the Championship again next season.
Yeah, you speak about sort of his in and out of the team there at Bournemouth in the latter stages of his spell. Looks like Norwich City are going to move away with Max Aaron's, of course, being touted to other places. Do you feel like it's a good move for Jack Stacey coming into a side which needs a new right back? He's got lots of Championship experience, of course, with Bournemouth, a 6th place finish and a 2nd place finish during his tenure down there at the Vitality Stadium. So do you think that experience can benefit Norwich City next season?
Yeah, exactly. I was a little bit out of the loop in terms of Norwich in the Championship as much this season, but I mean, in terms of Jack Stacey playing the Championship, he's very much looked well suited there when he played there for Bournemouth. Attacking right back, he's which I think he did well in that league when he had that run of games. Apart from when he fell out of form, he worked his way back in again. But he's sort of, other than those spells injured, he's one of the sort of fittest players in the team. He's up and down the right flank. I think it's just his sort of defensive frailties maybe cost him a place towards the end of his spell here. But he's always been. I think I've got a piece to go up with Gary O'Neill tomorrow. I think on Jack and how much of a model pro he's been in this time. Great character, and even when he hasn't been playing, I think he's played 1 minute since January or something, which obviously not nice for any player, but he's very much been the example to everyone else out of the team of how you deal with that situation. I think he's gone out with his head held high, which is nice for him, just because he hasn't played much at all. I think the fans are happy. Not happy to see him go, but happy that he's gone on and got another move, and they will be looking out for him. So I think he's done well during his time. He's always been a great character around the place, and I think he'll do very well back in the Championship. I think when we've known he was leaving for a little while, really, he was never really featuring, and you were looking around at who might grab him. I think we were looking at maybe Luton. Now they come back up, and he might go back there. But to go to the Norwich thing is a really great move for him. To be honest, I think he'll do really well there.
Yeah, he played some of his best football under Scott Parker, of course, a possession-based style of football, high tempo. He's coming into a David Wagner side, which is also very much built around kind of a high tempo, aggressive, being on the front foot. So therefore, do you think he's going to suit that style of football? You know, sort of he's maybe sort of I suppose benefit from that sort of during a spell with Scott Parker at Bournemouth.
Yeah, I think I think Eddie Howe's one that obviously started that and brought him in for a reason. And obviously, you don't just get signed by Eddie Howe for no reason. He developed him and he played quite a lot under him in that first season in the Premier League, which is where he sort of first started. And then he had a long run the following season, which the style has been similar, really, generally in terms of, like you say, under Scott Parker, he played a lot of games as well. And I think it's a frantic league, isn't it, the Championship? And I think he's very much He's got the fitness levels to cope with that. He's got the physicality to cope with that. It's just, like I say, in the Premier League, the last couple of managers haven't really fully trusted him to play right back, mainly because of his defensive side of his game. I think that's been the main thing with that. I think in the Championship, you can get away with a little bit more, and I think he can. It's not saying he's not an awful defender or anything. It's just other players have come in. Adam Smith were experienced and reliable, and they signed Ryan Fredericks this year as well. And Gary O'Neill was keen to lean on his experience to get him through a difficult time at first. And Stacey just found it difficult to find minutes, really. I think he's, like I say, he's suited to that sort of style, and high energy, fast tempo. And I think, like I say before, I think he's going to do well back in the Championship next season now.
Yeah, sort of spoke originally about versatility as a player, typically a right back, but looks like he sort of played midfield at different points for sort of his spells at maybe Luton and Exeter. But have you sort of seen that at Bournemouth? Has he just predominantly been playing at right back, or has he played in the midfield at any points?
Mainly right back, to be honest. He's played wing back as well on the right. That's pretty much the only time he's really featured. I'm trying to think now. He played at left back at Man City this year, I think, but that was very much a needs must. It's very much he's right back in a 4 or a 5. He may have played centre back briefly in a 3, but I think I haven't seen him play in midfield. I think I remember Catch used to cover Reading back in the day when he first started out there. When he used to play further forward as very much the winger then. And I think he sort of, as he developed, he got moved to right back and becoming like an attacking right back coming onto the ball rather than, I think you've spoken about it before, being higher up receiving it. It's quite a different sort of challenge for him. So he's grown into that right back role, and that's very much where I'd see him playing now. I don't think he's likely to be play. I mean, he could sort of double up on the right maybe, but I think generally it played nearly all his minutes at right back or wing back.
Yeah, I just watched his initial interview at Norwich City. He kind of spoke about coming to Carrow Road to play football, maybe still sort of at his peak age, maybe in terms of football as well. But for me, probably what I took from it is his ability with kind of, I suppose, building a relationship with the fans and the community. Is that something he's done really, really well at Bournemouth?
Yeah, like I say, I think the fans are very much pleased to see him get this move. I think it was a natural sort of parting of the way. He obviously had the contract coming to an end and wasn't playing, and there's no sort of real ill will towards him or anything like that. He's come in and done a really good job. And like I mentioned before, the management team, all the managers they've gone through, really, they've always spoken so highly of him as a character and what he's like off the pitch. It can be difficult not playing, especially when your contract's running out, knowing you're trying to find a move somewhere and you play like one game since January. It must be, or 1 minute since January. It must be particularly difficult. But as I say, the piece I've got tomorrow on him, it's very much how good he has been at that, and I think that's a testament to his character, which I think is quite a big thing as well. It's like I said, me sort of down tools a little bit, but there's been none of that from him, and just hasn't quite worked out for this season. But yeah, I think, like I say, you very much get involved straight away in things off the pitch. I think he's generally quite a down-to-earth guy as well, and I think the fans will take to him pretty quickly off the pitch, and then I'm sure he'll show what he can do again on it when he gets back up to speed, having not played too much this season. And he says he's hitting peak years as well, which is obviously ideal for Norwich fans.
Yeah, and then just finally, you kind of spoke about there that the 1 minute since January, but he's probably going to benefit, isn't he, from the preseason, the early signing being announced. He's going to have, a good sort of couple of months before he gets into action at Carrow Road in the Championship.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me if he turned up as the fittest player at the start of preseason. To be honest, that's the sort of person, sort of character he is. He's very much, I think, every preseason he was up there in terms of running stats and things like that. He very much prides himself on that side of his game, and I'm sure, let's say, I think I'm trying to think, the start of this season he played a little bit, and yeah, he's the preseason. I'm sure he'll be fully ready for it. I'm sure he'll be used in these next few weeks in the summer just to get ready. To be honest, seems that sort of character, that sort of player that he'll come back raring to go, and obviously try and look to cement his place in the team. And then I'm sure once he's done that and he builds his way back into the games, he'll want to look to put a good sort of tally of games on the board again next season in the Championship.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tom. Really appreciate your time. There we go. Norwich City's second signing is through the door this summer. Ashley Barnes, of course, the first one. Jack Stacey, the second. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more to get into before we come to pre-season, and David Wagner assembles his squad for next season's Championship.